Hey, Reviews and Done. Who's giving you a dose this week?
What's going on, world? Once again, it's your boy Derek Dunn back with another A1 interview. Today, I have the pristine privilege of talking to an acclaimed musician, all around just talented individual, and that's Mr. Christopher Stevens. And I want to thank him for taking time out of his busy schedule, touring with Mr. John Legend, to talk to your boy. So it's always a pleasure to talk to someone that's taking time out of their schedule to chop it up with a tiny fish like myself. So welcome to the line, sir, and happy hump day. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, always a pleasure, sir. So let's get right into it. So you began your career as a teenager, traveling around the world with Ty Tribbett and GA. What do those early experiences teach you about the music industry that still guide you in 2025?
Um, I guess that's a good question. I learned a lot from those experiences. I don't think I learned a lot about the business per se. I think what I learned about the business was that I needed to learn the business, because we all were really young at that point, even Ty, and so we all were learning a lot of things for the first time. Um, but it allowed me to have interaction with people like James Poyser and Chauncey Childs and a lot of industry elites, who I did learn a lot from as the years have gone on.
Cool. So when we look at your resume, which is very impressive in itself, in addition to John Legend, you work with the homie Eric Roberson, you work with Lauryn Hill, Earth, Wind and Fire, and all three of those artists, while it's still soulful, they all have like their own niche and own style. So how do you adapt to their styles as a performer and arranger to fit such diverse and creative voices?
Well, I would say that's probably something that I picked up from those early days. That music was very eclectic and it challenged me in a lot of ways. So it forced me to be able to come up with ideas quickly, especially in a section setting. Um, each of those acts, like you said, are very different. John, there is a horn section, but with Eric, there hasn't been a horn section for a long time. So in that situation, kind of learning to fly solo. So it's been a great opportunity for that. And then everybody works differently. Everybody requires something differently. So I just, I think growing up in church and playing in church and playing gospel music kind of prepares you for most anything, musical at least.
Yeah, and so before I pivot to my next question, I just got to shout out John Legend because I'm a firm believer that to truly experience somebody's artistry and what they can do, you got to see them live, as
Mm.
opposed to just like riding around and listening to them and watching the videos. And it's not really a I guess a negative mindset, but with John Legend, like I've always told people, while I don't ride around bumping Mr. Legend on the regular, his style of music, you got to see him live because it's meant to be experienced, in my opinion, live. With him on the piano and just his stage presence. I saw John at Wolf Trap 2 years ago,
Okay.
and just the way that he was so in tune with his band, watching it as a spectator, as opposed to just like hearing him on the radio. Yeah, that's a bad boy. He's musician. He's a straight up musician. So really get a feel for his talent. In my opinion, you got to see him live. It's the same with Eric. Even though I'm a diehard Eric Robertson fan, I've put so many people on to Eric's live show. I'm like, once you see him live, he'll totally win you over because he's a different type of animal, live as opposed to being in the studio. So just that quick little shout out to both those gentlemen.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that that's kind of the goal too. You want to put out great albums, but you want to be able to follow that up with a great live presentation, and that's how you really cultivate, a relationship with your fans, that you have more than just the album. Like you have an experience that they can share with you time and time again.
And most definitely. And I make it a point now to always try to see somebody live as they get older because you don't want to have regrets on when somebody passed. You're like, man, I wish I would have saw them live. And I learned that way back in 2002. I was 20, I just turned 21. And so my mom she had tickets to Luther Vandross, and whatever reason, one of her friends was kind of like giving them a runaround, so she wasn't gonna didn't want to go. So mom basically said, "You going to the show, boy? I bought this ticket. Somebody's going to the show." I'm like, man, I'm not trying to go see Luther. It's like, I mean, he can sing. I like him, but I'm not trying to go see him live. So this is 2002. So eventually, my mom's friend came around. I didn't go, and then a year later, he had the stroke, and then he
Hmm.
passed away. I'm just like, dang it, man. Same thing with Prince and Tina Marie. With Prince, I actually when he was doing the microphone and piano tour, he came to DC at the Warner, and I had the tickets in my cart. Was going to hit purchase. My Wi-Fi went down on my phone, and then went back in. It was sold out. And with Tina Marie, this was 2010 at the Birchmere. She was here, was gonna take my wife, couldn't get a sitter, and then Tina passed a few weeks later. So I'm making a point now, no matter how seasoned an artist is, I still try and go and see them if I haven't seen them yet, just so I can say I had a chance to see them live. Because a lot of these folks, whether it's Jeffrey Osborne, the Whispers, Commodores, I mean, they're still bringing it like live, even though they're up there in age. They're still like giving
Hmm.
you a quality show.
Yeah, I just saw the Blue Notes last weekend and they were rocking.
All right,
Yeah.
so you just had to throw it out there real quick. All right, so you got a Grammy nomination, which is like the milestone and the pinnacle for every musical artist. So what was that moment like for you? Getting that Grammy nod, and how has it influenced kind of how you approach your songwriting now?
That moment was really incredible. It totally caught me by surprise. I found out actually while I was playing the Kennedy Center with Eric that same day. A friend of mine texted me and was like, "Yo, you're nominated for." I'm like, "What? What just happened?" I did not see that coming. And then actually being there was an incredible experience too, because, well, first of all, it was my first time going, and just being there for anybody the first time, I'm sure would be incredible. But on top of that, just the experience of hearing them announce my name as they announced the song in the category, was just really surreal. And I don't know, man. I'm just truly grateful to have had that experience. I know that in the business that a Grammy goes a long way, and so it's something that I think, most artists, if not all artists, would like to get at some point. And so I would like to get a win under my own name, but I can't think about that when I'm creating, I think that that just kind of gets in the way. You start to make stuff that's not from the heart sometimes if you think that way. So I think about that when it's done. When it's all done, it's like, is this good enough? Is this something that I would like to submit? And, I just take it from there.
Hearing you say that, like, it brings up a good point to me as a spectator. When you think about Grammys, and it's often a hot take. People, you go back and forth on it, but when you look at it, MJ, and you look at Off the Wall and Thriller. Now, to me, just organically, all around, I think Off the Wall is a better album than Thriller. Just,
Mm.
with the instrumentation, like he was so hungry. It's a better, like, to me, it's a better put together album than Thriller from start to finish. And then it's like when Mike didn't get the Grammy for Off the Wall, he's like, yo, hold up, man, I got to really go back and work a little bit harder to get to Thriller. So it's like, I mean, I've always said, I mean, yeah, Thriller's the commercial one. It's the peak one. It's the one that everybody strives for. But like musically, organically, yeah, to me, off the Wall is the better album. But yeah, just that quick little
Sure. Yeah, man.
shout out. All right, so you're the founder of Vertical Current and the Chris Stevens Quartet. What artistic freedom do you find in leading your own bands as compared to touring, with bigger name acts when you're on tour?
I think first and foremost, it's me playing music that I've composed, which is really important to me. And also, there's a different type of pressure, I guess I'll call it. Because, when you're playing behind the artist, you have the artist's expectations to live up to. But when you are leading a band of your own or being the artist, then you have your own expectations to live up to. And, I guess depending on who you are, that can be drastically different or it can be, very much the same. I try to be excellent across the board, whoever I'm working with, but I think I push even harder when I know it's my name and face on the line, and I'm out there, it's like I really, really, really want this to work. And I know I don't have, at this point, the same level of fandom as like a John Legend. So it's like it's even more critical for me to perform well in that setting. But I never like to mess up in either situation. So
Respect. So another thing that I found interesting about your resume was, you've done film and television, both as a composer and an actor. Everything from La La Land to The Equalizer. So creatively, how do those opportunities differ from what you do as a musician?
uh, uh, it's very different. I would say that when I'm working on these film scores, I I have a specific mandate that I have to meet. It needs to sound like this. It needs to be this length. It's got to fit this specific style. It's got to fit this mood. And sometimes in the scoring world, I find that I'm writing less songs and creating more environment, sound environment. And then sometimes you get, those kind of wide open moments in a story where you can like really, really write something beautiful. But a lot of times it's an accent to the narrative, But I think that in both there is a high level of storytelling, or at least there should be. But when I'm writing my own stuff, I really have so much freedom, and I can do something that I think really feels good and sounds good, and no director is going to be like, uh, this is not quite it. It's like, no, I think this is it. I'm happy with it. So I get to be the final say when it's my music, as opposed to when I'm working on these films, but I enjoyed that work very much. I wanted to do it since I was a teenager. I remember the first attempt at scoring. I had a VHS player, a mini disc player, a guitar pedal, and I just rigged everything together and I like rescored one of the scenes from Gladiator, just kind of for fun. So it's something I've always been into, and I really enjoy the opportunities that I get to do it. I hope to do more. Acting is a whole different thing. It's very different. I don't know that I would compare it to music. It's just its own thing, but also enjoyable, but it's a lot of work. I think you see the finished product and you think that, it happens fast, but no, it's long days. It's lots of takes for angles, and then everything gets edited, and you see it for the first time and it's like you can feel a couple of ways about it. Either you're like really happy, like, wow, I can't believe this turned out like this, or you're like, man, they cut those parts out. I really like that part. So there's the cutting room floor aspect as well. Um, but yeah, I think those are all very different experiences for me, but all things I'd like to keep doing.
Nice. So I want to stay just film for a little bit longer because I'm a cinephile. So talking to composers, talking to hearing listening to commentaries, I think one of the greatest things that I ever heard was that on the commentary for Higher Learning and the one from Juice. So John with Higher Learning, John Singleton mentioned when he was doing Higher Learning, Raphael Sadiq for Ask of You, he actually was dating Tyra Banks at the time. And so he
Mm,
told Raphael, like, this is how I feel about Tyra, and I want you to transition what I'm telling you into this, the movie's big ballad. And with Juice, Rakim said they showed him an early cut of the movie, and that's how he was able to craft the song Know the Ledge based on Bishop, shout out to Tupac, rest in peace, narrative structure for that
wow.
song. So do you find like as a composer for any composer that it would be better to see a finished product or a rough cut and then draft songs as opposed to like waiting? Because like when you look at a Boomerang with End of the Road, the movie was already shot. I mean, they had finished everything, and then they were like, "Yeah, we need one more song." So that's they did End of the Road, and that's why in Boomerang there's only that one little coda and the scene with Leela Roshan, and then they play it over the credits. It doesn't go anywhere else in the movie, but it's still a classic song. So just want to get your,
Mm.
feedback on that as a film fan and as a composer.
Um, yeah, definitely a film fan too. I think that both have their pros and cons. So if you get the film finished and you add the music to it, you have kind of the freedom of knowing that the film isn't going to change, right? So like whatever you make, as long as they approve it, this is it, right? But the downside to that can sometimes be um, if the music is an afterthought, then it's hard to make something that can fit really well, you know, because I've worked on, different projects and sometimes there's a lot of dialogue. So it's like, okay, well, it's a lot of dialogue, but you want music, but it's like, well, where's music supposed to go? And it's like, okay, you want it under the dialogue. Well, that really limits what instrument choices I can use because some stuff is going to be in the same frequency as the voices, whether or not it can have rhythm. Like I was watching the interview Marcus Miller was doing, and he was saying when he did Boomerang that, at that time it wasn't really typical to have like a lot of rhythm under the dialogue for those reasons, but like he took a chance and, it all worked out. But a lot of times things like that can be an issue. But it's like if the director is really intent on, hey, I want music in this place, and you're working together as the film is being crafted, I think you can come up with something that is very cohesive on both sides of things, you know. But that can then, in turn kind of limit some creativity and that things may change. Like, hey, we came up with this great thing and now it hit the cutting room floor and it's a little shorter or it's a little longer or whatever the case may be. So pros and cons, but I've been able to do both. It's really about the relationship you have with the director. That's the thing. I think if you have a great relationship, communicating wise, not so much like being friends, but like being able to communicate and understand each other well, then you'll end up with something that everybody's happy with.
Very cool. Good answer. So as times change with the industry, you're finding ways to stay, just, keep up with the times. And that includes being a content creator with Splice and an artist in resident at Spring Garden Records. So how do you balance mentoring and community work with your personal artistry?
I would honestly say that that residency really helped me get in touch with mentoring outside of like my general music community. I have some friends in music that, we talk, we check on each other, give advice, so forth and so on. But to work there with the kids a little more directly, it helped me have the confidence to know that I do have something to offer them. And it was an encouragement for me to want to do more of that. I don't feel like I've had a lot of opportunity to do so, but it's something that I'm looking forward to doing more of.
Cool. All right, so before I let you go, as I often do, I got to make my interview talent put on their thinking cap. So you already have an impressive resume. You've already accomplished eons of good things, but you have unlimited budgets. So what's the dream project to compose any film and to do one album with just yourself doing all the composing, all the production, and you have that one artist singing, rapping, or whatever, and then you're composing any film, and the budget's unlimited.
Budget's unlimited, and I'm composing any film.
Yeah, and then doing one like album, like just it's one straight album with just you doing the composing and the production, and then any artist of your choice.
Hmm. Uh, that's tough, but my immediate answer, this is not the final answer for those of you tuning in. I'm a big Rocky fan, so I'm also a fan of the Creed spinoff. I wouldn't be mad at doing a Creed film. It'd be nice if they did like a prequel to Creed and we can like really dig into Apollo's life. Um, I'd be hyped to score something like that. As far as the artist, honestly, I'm gonna say my wife. I think that she is an amazing talent. That I we have such a bond and a chemistry on the music side as well as in life. I think that we could make something really incredible. And there's really no reason why we haven't yet. But under the circumstances of having unlimited budget, I know we would go crazy. And it would be awesome. So I think that that would be my answer.
Very cool. Oh, we got to plug the new album too. My bad, forgot about that at my old age. So
All good.
tell tell us about the new album, your most recent released project. I know it's available on all streaming platforms, and you have some big names working with you, including James Posinier, and who else is on the new project?
Yeah, so the album is called From Then Till Now. It's under my full name, Christopher Michael Stevens. Although this is technically my 10th album as a leader, this is my first actual solo album. Um, and it does feature James Poyser, Kari Mateen, Thaddeus Trivett, Leonard Pudge Trivett. My wife Shayla Stevens is on it. My mom and dad, Don and Cheryl Stevens, are on it. My brother Eric Trivett is on it. Um, Kaveh Rastegar, formerly of the band Kneebody. He's a solo artist as well, and he works with all the big names. He's on it. A lot of Philly people, Marlon Lewis. I mean, I can go down the list. There's so many people. It's a long list of people. But a lot of my friends and family are all over the record. Um, and I'm really grateful for that. I did make sure that I included my bands. Vertical Current is featured on a couple songs. Quartet is featured on a song. My MD for John is featured on a song, and my MD for Eric is featured on a song. So, Eugene Man Roberts for John and Aaron Harden for Eric. And so it's a lot of different people on there, which I was really happy to be able to do. I'm glad that everybody said yes. And I know a lot of people are like, man, you got so many people. And the truth is, if I had more time and money, it would be even more because I love working with my friends and family and bringing people in the music community together to make something that I think we all can be proud of, So, and that came through the artist residency at Community College of Philadelphia through their record label, Spring Garden Records. So, happy to work with those guys as well.
All right, sir. Well, I want to thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule to chop it up with me. And where can fans find you on social media? And is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so on social media, you can find me under CS Music One on Instagram, Christopher Michael Stevens on Facebook, and my website is www.christophermichaelstevens.com. I am finishing up this 20th anniversary of Get Lifted tour with John Legend. But I am looking to book my own shows once this tour is finished. So hopefully there'll be some dates piling up for next year. So you can just keep an eye on the website and on social media for those dates. And other than that, I hope that everybody is enjoying the music. I know I've heard some good reports so far, so I want to keep that going. And I don't know. I think that's it. Mm.
All right. Thank you again, sir. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings. Thank you.
Hey, what's up? This is Ludacris.
What's up, y'all? This is Nicki Minaj.
You're rocking with the best. It's Reviews and Done.